Welcome, environmental sociology students. This week we are going to be talking about population and about ecological footprint too. Sometimes we don't talk about those two things at the same time, and I think we should be. I'd like to start with a quote from your book. God forbid that India should ever take to industrialization after the manner of the West. The economic imperialism of a single tiny island nation, England, is today keeping the world in chains. If an entire nation of 300 million, India, took to similar economic exploitation, it would strip the world bare like locusts. That was Gandhi talking a while ago in 1928. We're in a new century now, but much of his concern is more validated than ever. Right now, India's population is over 1 billion. World population is over 7 billion. And last week we took a look at consumption in the United States, and many of you thought that it was very out of control in different areas, from energy to shopping and everything in between. So let's talk population. We often hear that from environmental groups, from environmentalists, as sort of being the big cause that needs to be addressed when we address environmental challenges. We also have some other theorists that you've been reading about in your book that look at population in another realm. And they say that we shouldn't think about adding people to the world population as just being an environmental negative, people who use resources, but we should see it as a positive because there are more people to address environmental challenges, to come up with technologies that might solve, or better at least, many of the challenges that we have. So when we talk about population, should we be talking about population as an environmental challenge? Is that a Malthusian view, or should we be talking about it as an environmental opportunity? And how careful do we have to be to not talk about population as separate from things like an ecological footprint? An ecological footprint is when we try to measure how many resources a person uses, and then how many Earths it would take if everybody in the whole world used that number of resources. As someone who lives in the United States and in South Florida, my ecological footprint is pretty high, even when I try to live in a sustainable way. Whereas the place that I do much of my research, in Ghana, in West Africa, in a rural village, the ecological footprint of people is actually very small. So when we concentrate and focus so much on population and numbers, are we really missing kind of the main point? And that is what the actual ecological footprint and total use of resources, space, land, water, etc. are. I'm going to leave that one up to you to decide. Please go to Google, and that's kind of a fun place to check out the concept of ecological footprint. You can go to some places and take a quiz that will estimate what your own personal individual ecological footprint is. One of those places is the Center for Sustainable Economy. They have a website. You can look at it, decide what you think of the organization and of their way of measuring the ecological footprint, because there are a lot of different ways to measure what we use and what the overall cost of it is. So please explore the idea of ecological footprints. Think about your own life relative to that. And then let's have a conversation in the discussion area about population. But let's not forget to continue our discussion about consumption too, and how the two things interact. I'll see you next week. Have a great week.